Welcome to the Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2013 Finance New Features course presented by Alessandro Vanini. This is the second course in the Finance series. This course will cover the new features in Dimensions, so knowledge of previous versions is a prerequisite. This course was built on beta versions of Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2013, so there may be some slight differences in the released product. Now, let me introduce Alessandro.
Hello, my name is Alessandro Vannini. I'm an escalation engineer working on Dynamics NAV in EMEA support organization. Today, I'm going to present you the dimension design, or better, the dimension redesign made in Dynamics NAV 2013. Before start watching this video, I kindly recommend you to read the workbook, where you can find more detailed information about the change made for this functionality. In the today presentation, I'm going to talk about the major design change made for Dimension. At the end, I'm going to show you a demo to better understand the change directly in the product. I will analyze the dimension redesign in Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2013 to better understand which change have been made in the design and which impact the user will have when you work with dimension functionality. Before start, I'd like to remind you what dimension functionality are. Dimension is the functionality that allows user to analyze sales and purchase data without breaking or change the chart of account. With dimension, it's possible to create different analysis, like understand which region is more profitable for the company. Adding dimension or multiple dimension code is possible made different kind of analysis. The third dimension is used to describe how the analysis occurs. I'm going to give you a quick overview for all the modules. I've only highlighted the main key points for every single module. For more detailed information, is recommended to read the workbook. I'll finish using a demo to better explain the design change. I'm going to make some comparison with the previous version, and I'm going to talk about design limitation in the dimension functionality. Design concept and design change. To better understand the design concept, we need to talk about the previous design concept. In the previous version, we used to store dimension in multiple tables. Every posting for invoice from journal have a specific table to store dimension. In the new design, we introduce a new concept. The new concept is introduce a new field called dimension set ID. Dimension set ID is a unique number that allows the system to recognize a specific set of dimensions used in the system. With dimension set ID, the system is able to retrieve and reuse the already stored dimension combination in the database. Every time a user uses a dimension combination already stored, the system is able to understand and find the right dimension combination to use through the dimension set ID. Design change. One of the most important change made in the design is the number of tables used by the system. In the previous version, as I said before, we add multiple tables to store dimension information. In the new version of Dynamics NAV 2013, only 2 tables are responsible to store all the dimension information. We have a new field add in multiple tables. The field is dimension set ID. In every table, like table 17, GL entry, or table 39, we have dimension set ID. Dimension set ID is able to retrieve the unique number of dimension combination used for this specific document. We have different change in the CL code to fulfill the usage of dimension set ID. In most of the posting routine, in most of the table, we have removed a lot of code and we introduce the usage of dimension setID. Another important thing about the design change is the improved performance that we have in dimension. We have taken some customer database where we have seen a customer database with 60 million records stored in dimension table reduce the number of records around 3000. This is a very good improvement in terms of maintenance of the database. Search in dimension combination, how the system stores dimension, how the system retrieves dimension. To better understand how the system stores dimension, we need to introduce the concept of new field, dimension value ID. This field is a unique value assigned to every single dimension value the user creates in the database. For example, for your department dimension, you want to create a new dimension called Production 2. When the user finishes to enter this value, the system assigns this unique number for this dimension. Later on, we are going to better understand why this field is very important to maintain the dimension in the database. The other important field is dimension setID that we have already described in the previous module. Remember that dimension setID is the field that the system uses to retrieve existing dimension combination in the database. Another important concept is how the system retrieves existing dimension and how the system is able to understand if the dimension already exists in the database. To better understand this concept, we need to talk about a building tree. This building tree has been introduced in table dimension set3 node table. In this table, the system stores starting from the lower level, in this case level 0, up to the last level that is necessary to store all the possible dimension combination. So imagine that you want to store in the database a particular dimension combination like department admin, project Mercedes and area 30. How the system stores this information is very simple. Starting from level 0, insert a no dimension value. In level 1, you will use area 30. In the second level, the system will use area 30 department admin. In the third level will be area 30 department admin project Mercedes, and so on. This is how the system is able to understand if a dimension combination already exists. This new design improves performance inside the database when the user works with dimension. Another interesting aspect to better understand how the system stores dimension in the database is make a comparison with previous version of Microsoft Dynamics NAV. So in a 2009 SP1 version, you want to post 3 journal lines using the same dimension combination. In this case, you are going to use department admin and project Mercedes for all the 3 lines. After you post the lines and you look at the dimension table, you can see that you have stored 6 different lines. If you now repeat the same example in NAV 2013, because the dimension combination department admin project Mercedes already exists in the database, the system doesn't store any dimension combination, but just add the existing dimension setID for all the 3 lines. If the dimension combination was not existing in the database, the system just creates a new dimension combination, adding a dimension setID and assign upgrade toolkit. Upgrade toolkit versus dimension. As you know, upgrade toolkit is the tool that allows partners to move customer database from old version to a newer one. If you need more information about upgrade toolkit, please refer to the upgrade toolkit guide. To fulfill the design change made in dimension, we need to make some change in the upgrade toolkit. The first change is referring to tables. When you import step 1 and step 2 of the upgrade toolkit, you can see that some old dimension tables still exist in the tool. There is a specific reason why we have this table in the 2-step of the upgrade tool. In version 2009, the dimension table have code, so this is to allow partner to maintain the compatibility during the upgrade process. The second change made in the upgrade toolkit is the creation of 2 new code units specific to move dimension. The third and the most important change that we have made is the way how you move dimension records from old version to the newer one. Using the 2 code units, we create a SQL query to move dimension from old version to the newer one. There are some good points and some bad points using this kind of functionality. Let's start from the good point. The good point that using a SQL query is much faster than perform an upgrade. We have seen during some tests in customer database that we can reduce the upgrade time for dimension from 12 hours to around 1 hour. What is not good using external tool to move data? The first problem is transactions are outside Navision. The second is users need to have full SQL permission. Third, easy to make errors. And the last one is difficult to maintain and to debug. Why we have decided anyway to fulfill this new way to transfer data? Because the performance improvement and the limit usage of SQL query make the decision. What has not changed? We will analyze the functionalities that has not been impacted or partially impacted by the dimension redesign. We are going through all functionalities, giving a small explanation and explain why the new design didn't impact them. Functionality not impacted. Default dimension. Default dimension is a dimension values that can be set up on front for a GL account, for a customer, for a vendor, and so on. When default dimension has been set up, the system uses it every time the account is used by the user. For example, in a journal when a user selects a GL account. The functionality is used only to retrieve dimension and dimension value already set up. The new design doesn't impact it. Dimension combination. Dimension combination is a matrix page where the user can block or limit a particular dimension to be combined in journal, document headers, document lines, worksheet lines, or budget entries. We have 2 options. Blocked, meaning dimension combination is excluded from use on entries. Limited, meaning the dimension combination can be only used for specific dimension combination. The functionality is used only to block or limit the usage of dimension combination. The new design does not impact it. Dimension priority. Dimension priority, when in the system there are 2 accounts that use the same dimension but with a different dimension values, system using the dimension priority is able to take the correct dimension value. There are a lot of examples about how the system works with the dimension priority. For more detail, you need to read the dimension course material. The functionality is used only to solve conflict between dimensions. The new design does not impact it. Job task dimension. Job task dimension allow the user to set up dimension values to a specific dimension task. The way how the system store and retrieve the dimension information for the job task is not impacted from the dimension redesign. The table 1002 job task dimension still exists in the database. The dimensions tasks are used during the WIP, work in progress calculation. Intercompany dimension. Intercompany dimension allow the user to set up dimension and use it when the intercompany functionality is used. The way how the system store and retrieves the dimension information for the intercompany is not impacted by the dimension redesign. The table 411 intercompany dimension and 412 intercompany dimension value still exist in the database. Change global dimension. Change global dimension batch job is used when a user wants to exchange one or both of the global dimension in the database. When you run the batch job, system changes the value used before. With the newer design, we do not change the already created entries in the dimension set id entry table. The new global dimension can be used and new dimension set will be created later on. The change global dimension batch job not impacts the already created entries. The new global dimension can be used and new dimension set will be created later on. Rename dimension. In some cases, can happen that user decide for any reason to rename an existing dimension or existing dimension value. We can have two different results. This depends if we rename a dimension or we rename a dimension value. When we rename a dimension, system will update all the references of this dimension in the database. This operation will not impact the dimension set entries already stored in the database. Also, the dimension values id will not be impacted by the operation. Functionality partially changed. Update analysis dimension. The update analysis view is the functionality that allows the user to update the dimension analysis. The new dimension design does not impact this functionality. The only change that we have are in the CL code to be able to use the new design structure. Closing cast statement. Closing cast statement is the functionality that allows user to close the end year balance. The current version of closing cast statement, Report 94, has extensive logic around dimension handling, mostly because of performance consideration. We can keep the existing functionality as is, except that we use the new field dimension set id on table 17 GL entry as a reference instead of its primary key entry node. Also in this case, the only change is in the code due the new dimension redesign. Known issue and limitation. In the last module, we are going to analyze the most common known issue and limitation that customer and partner have found using dimension functionality. The most important are automatic posting, adjust currency batch, receive GL accounts, item charge, and fixed assets. Later on, during the demo, I'm going to give you some example of this limitation. Let's start from the automatic posting. An automatic posting is an operation made by the system. The most common one are closing cast statement. If in the return earning GL accounts you define a dimension, can be a global dimension or not a global dimension, with the value posting equal to code mandatory of same code, the system expects to receive the specific dimension for that account. When you closing cast statement, system need to insert into the specific GL account, but the dimension code is not defined during the posting. This will lead into an error. There are some workarounds. It depends if you have multiple dimensions defined for the GL account or single dimension defined for the specific GL account. If you have a single dimension, you just need to add the specific dimension to the retained earning GL account. If you have multiple dimensions, you need to add multiple dimensions to the return earning account. The biggest problem that has been identified is when you use additional reporting currency. In this case, when you run the closing cast statement, the system doesn't create any line in the journal, but create a line directly in GL entry table. In this case, the only workaround is to remove the dimension defined from the GL account. The second one is adjust a currency batch job. This is a common problem that occurs when a dimension that can be code mandatory or same code is defined in one of the GL account using by the process. The adjust currency batch job is not able to split the entry according to the dimension used. So when you try to run the process, the system stops the posting with an error message. In this case, only workaround available is temporarily remove the dimension defined for the GL account. The third one is receiving GL account. A received GL account is one account that receives an entry during the posting process. We have different examples around it, but in the demo that I will show later, I'm going to use a VAT account. For example, if you define a dimension for the VAT account, it can be a specific one or a new one. After posting, when you check your account, you can see that the dimension defined has not been used by the system. This happened because the system is not able to add the dimension you define in your account. Dimensions are moving to posting. If you have defined those to the higher level, this meaning add dimension to GL account, customer, vendor, resource, item, job, or fixed asset. In this way, dimensions are posted in the correct way. Another issue is around item charge. One of the common issues is when you need to split into multiple item lines. The system, in this case, is not able to split dimension in the item charge. So, if you have assigned different dimension to the item and you have a single item charge line, the system leads into an error. The only workaround is define multiple item charge lines. Another workaround is temporarily remove the dimension, of course. The last one is fixed asset. For fixed asset, one of the most common problem report is how to assign dimension during the depreciation process. The correct way is use allocation. With allocation, you are able to split the depreciation posting into different dimensions. We are now at the end of the presentation. My last task is make a demo to show you the change that we have talked about during this video. The first things that we need to do is go to Dynamics NAV 2013. The first change I want to show to you is the dimension value ID. So we need to go to Departments, Financial Management, and Dimension. Here we can open Dimension. We select a dimension, we go through Navigate and click on Dimension Value. Here we are going to create a new dimension value for dimension area. We click on New button, we insert a number like 32, we give a name, Europe New 1, we select dimension type standard, and we move on the next slide. We click again in action and we indent the value. As you can see, dimension is now created. Now, to see the field, we need to zoom on the line. So I'm going to click Ctrl Alt F1. In the table field, we have a dimension value ID 40. This is the new value assigned for the specific dimension by the system. The next things that I want to show you is how the system uses dimension setID. To do this, we need to go and create, for example, a sales order. So we go from Home, we go in Sales Order, we click New, and we insert, for example, Customer 10,000. We accept, and we have our order. So as Customer 10,000 has already dimension defined, we can check which dimension is used by the system. So if we go to Navigate and we click Dimension, we see that a couple of dimensions are inserted. If we are now zoom on the line, in one of the line, using Ctrl-Alt-F1 and we go in the table field, we can see that dimension setid used by the system is 4. So let's try now to change a dimension code and see what's happened to our dimension setid. So I'm going to select area 40, for example, and I click OK to accept the change. If I go back in dimension and I zoom the line again, go in table field, you can see that now dimension setid is 156. So this shows how the system retrieve and understand that the dimension is already used in the database. It's important when you change a dimension to have the change that you accept the message. Because, for example, if I select again this one and don't make any change and I zoom in the line again, you can see that the dimension setid is still the same. So after you need first to accept clicking OK, and after this the change has been made by the system. In this case, dimension setid has been changed again. Another important things that I want to show you is the example of the system store dimension. So if we go now to Department, Financial Management, General Ledger, General Journal, we are going to create some entries using the same dimension. Now I want to add the dimension, so in Department I add Admin, and in Project I add Mercedes. I add Admin, Mercedes, and Admin and Mercedes. So now I can post those 3 lines. Okay, we have posted the line. So now we want to see what's happened in the database. So we go now in the history, GL register. We found the last line we post. We check general ledger. Here we have the 3 lines that we have posted. Click dimension and we have the 2 dimension posted. If we zoom in the line, we go again in the table field, you see dimension value D is 4. If we repeat the same, for example, for the last line, if you do the same, for example, in the last line, we click again dimension, you see the dimensions are the same. We are going to check again the dimension setid is 62, as in the previous. In another line, dimension are always the same, and you see the dimension setid still always the same. So instead of have 3 different lines posted, we only have 1 reference for all the lines, the dimension setid. This is more or less what I want to show about the dimension design. I'm not going to show you about the tree and about the upgrade toolkit and about all the other dimensions. What I want to show you is a couple of problems. What I want to show you now is, for example, what's happened when you define a dimension. Now I want to start to talk about the known issue. Let's start from the closing cost statement. So in the chart of account, I want to select my account 3120, find, and For this one, I want to define a dimension. Dimension, single, delete, and I want to insert department, code mandatory. Okay, now we are going to close the close income statement. So periodic activities, general ledger. So periodic activities, fiscal year, close income statement. Okay. Now if I try to close, system return this message to advise me that a dimension has been used. You can click yes, you can click no. So at the end the result will be the same. So let's click no and run again the close income statement. Add the department dimension because the system asks us to add the department dimension, and we run. So now we have a couple of lines in general journal. If you go in the general journal and we check the last line, okay, is our account. As you can see, no dimension has been set up. So if I now try to post, the system will lead into an error. In this case, we just need to add the required dimension admin to be able to post the line. As you can see, this has been posted. Another issue that I want to show you that we have talking about is the currency exchange batch job. So in this case, I'm going again in the chart of account and I go for my account. So this can be 9310. And also in this case, I'm going to add the dimension, department, and I select, in this case, code mandatory, and I click OK. I repeat the same operation for other account, so 9320, also in this case, department and code mandatory, and I click OK. I select now adjust exchange rate, I enter some date, so 01/01/2013, and I select 31/12/2013. The system set the posting date. I add the document number. I select the currency, US dollar in this case. Okay, and I click OK. As you can see, the system returns this message. Select dimension value code for dimension code department GL account 9320. This happened because we define a dimension as code mandatory, but the exchange rates batch job is not able to assign a dimension to the system. It's not able to assign a dimension during the posting. So the other example that I want to show you is the receiving GL account. So what's happened if I define a dimension that is not used in a GL account and the dimension is not used during the posting. So in department, general ledger, chart of account, account 5610, navigate, dimension, remove this one, add a new dimension. So I select again business group and home. Okay. So now we go home, sales invoice, new. We create a new one for customer 10,000. We check the dimension, navigate dimension. You see that business group is not used. GL account item 70,000, quantity 1, and we can post this invoice. There we go. We go back in department, general ledger, chart of account, our account 5610. We drill down in the account. We're going to check the last entries That is our invoice 1009, navigate, dimension. As you can see, the dimension that we have set up has not been used by the system. Only the dimension set up in the customer card has been used. The last example I want to show you is the item charge. So we are going to department, warehouse, planning and execution, item. We select, for example, item 70,000, so we can find. In the navigate, we click dimension single, and we are going to add, for example, department, admin, and same code. Okay, we repeat the same for item 7101. Again, dimension single, department. In this case, we take production, and we select same code. And okay, so we have set up the two dimension. Now we come back in our home and we select the sales order. We create a new one, customer 60,000. In the first line, we insert item 70,000, quantity 1. In the second line, we select the other item, quantity 1. In the third line, we select the charge item. We select the first one, quantity 1, and unit price 10. We select line, item charge assignment, action, suggest, equally. Okay, this has been assigned, and we now try to post, ship an invoice, and an error message appear. So the system want to receive a dimension called admin for item 70,000. So we try to add the dimension to the item charge assignment line, dimension, department, and admin. We try to post again, and now another error message comes up because the system wants to receive a dimension prod for the other item. So the workaround in this case is remove the assignment, so we remove. We create an additional line as item charge. We set the new price for both lines. In the first line, we are going to assign the dimension admin, and in the second line, we are going to assign the dimension prod, department, production. We now select again the first line, and we are going to assign to the first one. Line, item charge assignment. We remove the second line, and we suggest item charge amount. We're going to do the same things for the other line. So line again, item charge assignment. In this case, we remove the first line, and we assign. Okay, so now we try to post again, and you can see the system is able to post. So this happened because item charge is not able to split dimension code in multiple lines. We have finished with our demo. So I hope you enjoy it. I wish you a very great day. Bye.
Thank you for reviewing this course. Additional new feature courses can be found on the Partner Learning Center. If you have specific questions on any of the features shown, you can contact Partner Technical Services by emailing askpts@microsoft.com or call 1-800-MPN-SOLVE.